I'm sure that after reading the title for this video, you're probably thinking, oh great, time to listen to another conservative rant about how feminism is ruining womanhood and encouraging young women to become man-hating skanks. Well, you will be pleased to know that I am a self-proclaimed man-hating skank, and that is not what this video will entail. What I want to talk about is how feminism has evolved along with the rise of the internet's popularity, and how it has grown to be potentially dangerous to young women. To begin, let's quickly go over a little bit of the history of feminism in America and discuss its core ideas and values. The Seneca Falls Convention, taking place in 1848, was the first women's rights convention that took place in this country. At the time, feminists were mostly fighting to not be the property of their husbands, so, basic human rights, but they would shift their focus to voting rights towards the end of the 19th century. Starting in the 60s, women began pushing back on the typical gender roles of women in Western society, while also fighting for equal rights to men in pay and education. Women also began calling out instances of sexual violence committed against them. The 80s and 90s were the time in which intersectionality was becoming a term known in feminist circles. For those who don't know what intersectionality is, it is essentially the recognition of the multiple facets that make up a person's identity. For example, while I am a woman and face oppression due to that, I am also white, so I gain privilege in that aspect. Many non-white, queer, and poor women rightly criticized earlier feminist movements for only focusing on gaining rights for white, straight, cis, and middle-class women. In more recent years, things like the Me Too movement have encouraged women to speak out on cases of sexual assault and helped amplify the voices of victims. It also showcases how scarily common sexual violence against women is. The role of the female figure is also a topic highly discussed by feminists, as women are sexualized for pretty much just existing. We are told to cover up and close our legs, while men get pats on the back for banging as many women as possible. I mean, make it make sense. Feminism also now encourages sex and body positivity among women, as well as furthering the female empowerment that the movement has always been based around. It is undeniable that the internet has had major effects on our society as a whole, and this impact does not exclude the evolution and spread of ideas and virtues. The internet is unique in that it allows for people from all across the globe to interact with each other on a daily basis. This interaction then leads to discourse on certain topics, and feminism is probably one of the most highly discussed. Now that we have some background knowledge on feminism to work off of, let's get into the real discussion here. How feminism on the internet is dangerous to young women. I'm sure everyone watching has heard some boomer complain about how technology is ruining childhood and forcing kids to grow up too fast. And while this argument is typically over-exaggerated and in response to a minor thing like kids making TikTok dances and watching Minecraft videos, it does actually hold some value. As someone who grew up in that weird part of the older Gen Z kids who had a traditional childhood but were still on the internet from a young age, I have first-hand experience when it comes to growing up online. I could not tell you the number of times my mom warned me about not sharing personal information on the internet, or how many assemblies on internet safety I was forced to attend in middle school. And while the concerns of creepy older people trying to kidnap children are very much real, I mean, we've all seen To Catch a Predator, I have found that another danger lies hidden beneath the veil of female empowerment. Let me start this with a huge disclaimer. I am in no way saying that female empowerment is a negative thing, or that we shouldn't encourage young women to be confident in themselves. I am a hardcore feminist myself, and believe that all women should be taught to be proud and not take shit from men from a young age. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let me explain what I mean when I say that internet feminism is dangerous to young women. As we discussed earlier, one of the core values of feminism is the idea that women's bodies are no one's but their own, and that the female figure is overly sexualized from a young age. As is shown like things in dress code, young girls are often sexualized as soon as they hit puberty, and in some cases, even before that. I'm looking at you, weirdly sexualized baby clothes. This has sparked needed discussion as to why we sexualize things like children's shoulders and prioritize their male counterparts' educations over their own. As I mentioned previously, modern feminism is based on sex and body positivity among women, as women are often shamed for enjoying sex or not looking like society expects them to. The issue with this, and more specifically these two previous topics combined, is that young women on the internet use these ideals to create and post sexual content and then claim that anyone who calls them out for it is sexualizing them for no reason. Now, let me start by discussing how the internet has almost absolved the awkward preteen phase among women. With access to the internet, young women can see how the cool older women are dressing, and they try to emulate that. In most cases, however, this mimicry leads to young women dressing in ways that are inappropriate for their age group. With the rise of e-girl fashion in the past year, many young girls have begun wearing thigh garters and collars around their necks, thinking it makes them look edgy. What they don't know, however, is that both of these accessories have sexual backgrounds. Garters are traditionally worn by a bride during her wedding and are removed by the groom towards the end of the reception. This is symbolic of the groom deflowering the bride, as garters were first invented to hold up stockings. Collars are a common accessory in many fetish communities, and often signify ownership of the person wearing it. In both cases, these young girls are wearing inherently sexual accessories without knowing the background behind them. I don't want to be your typical older Gen Z person who hates on TikTok dances, but I think this is a relevant time to scrutinize some of them, at least. While many TikTok dances are wholesome and harmless, albeit cringy, there are some that are definitely on the sexual side. But to young women on the app, learning and doing all the different dances is just a fun challenge, and there's no sexual intent behind them. From the lens of an older person who knows better, however, it is downright uncomfortable to see children throwing it back to Megan Thee Stallion. I have seen many comment sections on apps like TikTok in which multiple older Gen Z and millennial women are trying to warn a young girl that her content is potentially dangerous and that she should be more aware of what she posts. And the comeback from the poster is that it is her body, her choice, and she should be able to do what she wants with her body without unnecessary sexualization. While both of these statements are true when they stand alone, they don't exactly fit into this context. This is something that, as a woman who grew up on the internet, is frustrating because posting content like that is dangerous to these children, but they won't accept that those commenting to warn them are just trying to help, and mostly speaking from experience. This has allowed for apps like TikTok to become a goldmine for child predators, who can consume sexualized child media in a way that is legal and free, but equally creepy. While a 12-year-old doing the WAP dance might not think about the fact that the internet is extremely public and extremely permanent, that doesn't make it any less of these things. Overall, I still believe that feminism has done far more good than bad in this world, but I just wanted to call out something I see happening far too often these days. So, if you're one of the young women I described in the video, I encourage you to take a step back and consider what you're posting before you post it, and listen to other women who have been on the internet for far longer than you.